Hi, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of Table 21. I had the brilliant idea of going for a workout before this podcast because I thought I could fit in a quick cold shower talking to a gentleman today that works with a lot of athletes. So I said, I got to get in my workout, which turned out to be quite a bit of running in the sun. But I'm happy I got it. I'm pumped. I'm excited. Chris Warner is my guest today. Chris works with Levy. They operate a lot of anything that's food related, and he'll tell us more. But in stadium, in arenas, pretty much if you went to see a game somewhere before all this crazy time, or since we recently reopened, you probably went to some of their establishments. So he does things at scale, and I could throw numbers your way to maybe impress you right now. But you know what? I think I'll just bring in the man and let him tell us the story. Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm good, Chris. I got to say, it's a good name you got there.
Pretty good name, eh? And you know what? We have the same initials, which is pretty rare too.
It's meant to be.
I noticed that when I called him. Like, I don't think I've met many CWs in my days. Thanks for being here today. Glad to have you. As I was writing the bio to the podcast, I realized you only do things that at scale a lot of times, right? You work with cruise ships that are scaled. Now you run a lot of the FNB in one of the fifth largest stadium in the world. So that's pretty exciting as well. And before we get into the nitty gritty of business, I was curious to throw a couple of this or that question your way, just so I think it's fun to get to know our guests a little bit better. So since we don't know each other that well, I'm curious to pick your brain a bit. So here I go. Are you an early riser or a night owl?
I like to get up early, get things done early. Then I know that they're done. And then whatever happens the rest of the day, like a random wine tasting or a brewery tour, I feel like I've done my workout. I've got my work done. So early riser.
I love those random winery tastings. Are you more jogging or gym, as in lifting weights?
Oh, God. You would never catch me running anywhere. In fact, on my men's slow pitch baseball team, I either only hit singles or home runs or got out. I do not.
That's amazing. Are you more burger or tacos?
I was burger, but living in Texas now 3 years with a great Mexican food scene, I'm going to go with tacos now.
Yeah, tacos are on the rise. Actually, isn't it Taco Tuesday today? Now I'm thinking about it.
It is Taco Tuesday. Right.
Are you more Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix.
Chips or ice cream?
I have to say chips, Miss Vicky's salt and vinegar.
That's a good call. Anything Miss Vicky, if you ask me. Are you more beach or mountain?
Definitely beach.
Yeah. Probably not as common where you're at now, right? I guess you can go on the East Coast, right, in Texas?
Yeah, Galveston is probably the closest.
Yeah.
But anywhere south of that, when the Gulf of Mexico, because of the Mississippi River, there's a portion of it that's brown. It's not dirty. It's just the sediment from the Mississippi. But as you go further south in Texas, that Gulf turns to that turquoise blue, and it's beautiful in South Texas.
Yeah. Are you more tea or coffee?
Coffee before 10 a.m., tea the rest of the time. Gyokuro Imperial Green Tea.
Amazing. You sound like a disciplined man.
Oh, God. No.
You know where you're headed, no?
Discipline is not usually associated with me.
It's not your middle name? Me neither, but you sounded like no coffee after 10. I'm like, it sounds like you've got some rules there that are set. That's cool. Thanks for playing my this or that. You said you're in Texas now, originally from Toronto, I believe, right?
Yeah, I'm born in Richmond Hill, which is a suburb just north of Toronto, but we always say Toronto, yeah.
Cool. And so you've been in the hospitality business for most of your career, from what I understand. What brought you to our industry? What brought you to do this?
Well, when I was younger, I guess you could first start working 15, 16, 17, I was actually a competitive swimmer. So there wasn't a lot of time to work. So a great first job was a busboy at a restaurant. It was with Sir Corp restaurants that I guess now they're most popular for Jack Astor. Yeah.
My first server job was at Jack Astor's in Montreal. So
there you go. The 10 steps of service. You remember that, right?
Of course.
But yeah, so then in high school, in my last year of high school, I had that was at the time in Ontario where you required 5 years of high school. So you could work your schedule where you could finish what we called OAC courses. That was the 5th year of high school. If you wanted to go to university, you could actually finish them early, but you still needed a certain amount of credits. And I ended up going on a one-way exchange program to Costa Rica, and ended up staying there. It was at least 9 months. I was only supposed to be there 2.5 months. And I remember coming back, and I had all my credits to graduate, and I talked with my guidance counselor at the time, and I said, I really like this traveling thing and being in other places and having that ability. Like, what kind of jobs can I get where I could travel? And I remember him saying that, the University of Guelph has this, at the time it was called Hotel and Food Administration. It's a degree in business, and you can specialize in the hospitality industry. And from there, there's hotels all over the world. There's cruise ships, there's restaurants. Like, you could work anywhere in the world with this degree. And turns out that I have worked many places in the world with this degree, but that's really what got me into it. And then what kept me in it was, the people that you meet in this crazy industry. There's, equal parts something wrong with all of us, and really good with all of us. So yeah, that's what brought me here.
Very cool. And you've done a lot of different things. Like you work for a large cruise ship organization. You've worked for you've worked obviously in a smaller restaurant when you started, to doing a lot of things that are at scale, right? Cruise ship is 2,000 crew members. I don't know how many are in F&B, but you organize stuff for the Pan Am Games, I believe, in Toronto. And now you run one of the largest stadiums. How are things different from doing them in a smaller operation to doing them at scale? Is it I'm just curious, or even if you can share like some of the stats. When we talked 2 weeks ago, you showed me some stats about the stadium where you're at now, but even on a cruise ship, like what does it look like? Like how many outlets for F&B and how many people are working in that department? I know there's like 2,000-3,000 crew members, but how many of that is for food service and that aspect of it?
Yes, actually, on the cruise ship, it's funny because I was actually in human resources on the cruise ship. I was the training and development manager for both Royal Caribbean and Carnival. But those ships, they're literally floating cities. My contract length would be anywhere from 4 months to 6 months on, and then 6 weeks to 2 months off, which was fully paid, which was nice. But when we say it's a little city, it's not even a little city. It's a medium-sized city. Yeah. It has different neighborhoods and different restaurants for breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night, cocktail bars, sports bars, piano bars, jazz lounges, nightclubs. I think on the bigger ships, there's 36 or 38 different food and beverage outlets, plus different room service options. There's, I think the stats that I remember, this is 8-9 years ago since I've been on ships, but we had over 100 different nationalities on board. And in those nationalities, there was like 167 different languages of just the crew members. So really, we used to not joke, the cool thing about cruise ships was that all of these people from all over the world, literally all over the world, working together in really tight quarters, living together, partying together. That's just, you're always together and with very, very few problems, which is not representative of the world that we live in. So it was, it's hard work and it's not for everyone, but appreciating those different cultures and customs and languages and really understanding, more about where people come from. And really, Chris, I think it just boils down to what I really learned from those 5-6 years on ships was, we're all just people. That's all we are. We want the same things. We want to make some money. We want to take care of our families. And we want to be treated with respect and, not according to rank or not according to stripes on your shoulder. And it was great lessons. I would really recommend that. I think I joked with you this as well. I think everyone in the world should have mandatory, 4 years hospitality. I really think it would change a lot of things and a lot of expectations that we go through. Just to go on a little bit of a rant here, I'm going a little bit off topic, but just reminded me of something. In our current state right now, it's a major labor shortage in the hospitality industry from top to bottom. And a couple reasons for that, I think, when the pandemic started, a lot of the older and upper management people were either retired or asked or voluntold to retire early. And then the recent graduates said, well, screw this, I'm not getting into this business. And they found something else. And then, there was a lot of people in the middle, that 40 to 60,000 a year manager that were furloughed or laid off and moved somewhere else. And, it's disappointing right now to see a lot of the backlash in the media, where it's easy for a politician or somebody to get on Twitter or get onto a microphone and say, well, no wonder you're not having any staff right now because you treated them like shit for so long and you didn't pay them well enough and you didn't take care of them. And there's really no thought that's gone into that, because these are the same people that want to pay $4 for a hamburger, or want to pay expecting, complaining that $40 for a bottle of wine is crazy. And, you worked just as long as I have in this business. You can't go to your landlord and say, well, my customers want to pay less for their steak, so you have to lower my rent. And then you can't go to the HVAC system and say, I can't pay $25,000 to install hoods and then pay $5,000 a year to have them inspected and cleaned to keep them up to fire code, because my guests would like their eggs Benedict at $8. It doesn't work that way, right? So it's really easy to say you should just pay people more and give them benefits and give them whatever. Well, somebody has to fund that at some point, right? So I think, we really do need to look at living wages and how we address that. But I think there has to be buy-in on the customer side as well. So end of that short rant.
That's a good rant, though. It's true that some people expect to have everything the cheapest or the most affordable, but also they want it to be local and they want it to be organic and then fair trade, and for everybody to have amazing wages. And obviously at some point something's got to give. There's some clear graphics on that. Either you have more quality, well, it goes with the price, and if you want to pay less, usually the quality is less or the experience is less, and so on and so forth. So they are, though, certain things that can be done internally to keep people or to attract people, right? Some everybody's having a hard time too, because right now everybody's trying to go into the pool of talent and bring people in at the same time. Usually it doesn't happen, right? There's a natural flow. There's people that are changing jobs, but right now it's hard when you're basically everybody's going out trying to hire. So there will be, and there was already a shortage before this. I don't know how bad it was in Texas, but I know up here in Canada it was pretty bad before the pandemic. So right now everybody's going out and hiring at the same time, and some people are trying to stand out, some people are trying to be an attractive employer, but other people are still a little old school and maybe not too focused on culture, right? Is that something that I'm guessing and I don't want to jump ahead, actually. Let me back, because there's some really interesting things about what you're doing now. So you work for Levy. Levy, from what I know, and you can correct me, but they operate anything that's food service and I won't say most, but many stadiums and arenas across North America. But just give us a lowdown on Levy, and then tell us where you're at now and kind of what the scale of your operation is like.
Yeah, so Levy is a division of Compass Group USA, Compass Group Worldwide. And we operate in the food services and hospitality side, as you mentioned, for various venues. Could be arenas, stadiums, convention centers, zoos. We even have a couple properties. We own some brick and mortar restaurants in the Florida and Chicago area. And really, this company was started, I want to say, in the late 70s. It was two brothers and their mother owning a deli, and expanding now to 40 something years later to being the industry leader. I don't want to quote too many numbers because this last year was weird, but certainly top line sales and an industry leader in that sense. And Compass is the largest food service provider in the world. So backed by a really strong company. I think one of the things that one of our mottos is we're all about family. We're a family of passionate people. And this company has made some really forward thinking and unique decisions. And this gets to the people point. I think 5 or 6 years ago, Compass and Levy identified that, we have a major people challenge in hospitality, for many different reasons. And it's that we touched on at the beginning. It's not easy to picture working, every weekend at night and every holiday and every Mother's Day and every Father's Day and, every Super Bowl and, all of those things that are traditional social gatherings is, somebody has to be there to serve all those people that go out, and that's us. And, it's hard to recruit people with the hours and with the pay. And so they instituted a couple things that I think were great ideas. There was a minimum salary introduced, and then they eliminated maximum or minimum vacation times. So really it's because so many of our properties are seasonal, whether it be NCAA football or NFL football, where you're working like crazy for 6 months, and then there's always a down season, and then you're back into planning and getting ramped up again. Well, instead of, trying to plan your 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks off, and then in between all of that, the personal stuff, dentist appointment, kids have a graduation, they just decided as a company that, you're going to sort it out with your direct manager, how much vacation you want to take. So really for people in our industry now, taking 2 weeks off straight to go to the cottage or travel to Europe, or like, that's something you can now plan without worrying about, I only have 10 days left or 8 days left to take. So I think that's really helped. And I think there's more to be done to continue to attract those people. But yeah, so that is the food service side of venues and stadiums is the core of the Levy business.
Very cool. And now you are at now I want to say the name and I forget, but the Texas A&M. What's the name of the stadium again?
Kyle Field is the stadium.
So
we do the food services for all of the athletics venues here.
Oh, okay. But that's the 5th largest stadium in the world.
5th largest stadium in the world, 4th largest stadium in America. And I think we may drop one with some renovations that are coming up to other college stadiums. But yeah, I mean, it's 103,000 at full capacity, 110,000 with standing room only. And
what does food and beverage in a building like that look like, outlets wise? Like, how many outlets, how many people working with you guys on game day? Like, what's that like?
So we have, again, in normal times, we have 20 or so year-round salaried managers, maybe another 5 or 10 year-round full-time and part-time hourlies that have benefits. For a full capacity game, we're looking at about 1,800 staff. And then we bring in an additional 40 to 60 managers from different parts of our company to support each game. And with that, that's 40 plane flights and 40 hotel rooms and 40 rental cars and 40 per diems and organizing all of that. So, I mean, it is, it's a football season, but each event is, kind of like, at least attendance wise, it's 1.5 times the size of any Super Bowl. A slow game for us is 70,000 people. We'll walk in the park. It is a lot of work to get 55 permanent concession stands open, another 30 or 40 portables, a 4,500 person club, a 2,500 person club, 125 suites, a press box, green rooms, catering, pregame meals, postgame meals, staff meals for 1,800 people. It is a logistical challenge. I mean, I think, sorry to repeat myself, but nobody listening knows that I'm repeating myself. But, serving, a lot of people say, why can't you just open the window and serve hot dogs? It can't be that hard, right? Well, the hot dogs have to come from somewhere. And so that starts 3 months out when you have to do your demand planning with your suppliers for hot dogs, for steaks, for chicken, for, we just bought, $50,000 worth of brisket to get us through our first 3 games coming up in September, because the prices of meat are going up literally weekly. The prices are going up. So we're trying to hedge our bets with that. So, it starts with your suppliers, and then the delivery. Our warehouse is 10,000 square feet. Trying to find a place to store all that and then get it up to the various areas on 7 or 8 different levels of the stadium. Then we got to find staff. We got to train them. They got to learn how to use the POS. We have to educate the guests that we don't use cash. I mean, we can go on and on and on. So, I mean, it's really, the opposite of just open the window and sell hot dogs.
Yeah, there's way too many moving parts. And for the thing is that for the person that's going to a game, they see that counter right there, just open that one, but they don't know that there's 55 of those and that you need to coordinate, employees for it, the technology, the supply chain, everything else. And I'm guessing in a place like that, there's some kind of a commissary where you keep all the food and then you need to dispatch it to all these different outlets. So yeah, there's many moving parts for sure.
Yes, including one service elevator. That if that breaks, then we're in big trouble.
There's one only for the 7-8 floors?
One major service elevator, yeah.
Wow, yeah. If that breaks an hour before a game or a couple hours before, I guess it's panic mode. Or there's people running a lot of flights of steps with the boxes in their hands.
Well, and we've done this. It's the ramps, right? So
okay. You can go up the ramps.
Yeah, and our early September games, it's that's still late summer in Texas, so it's going to be 100, 110 degrees, and going up ramps with dollies filled with bag-in-box sodas and cases of water and whatever else can get up those ramps.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a workout? That's a good workout.
I'd definitely be sweating profusely if I was doing that. Obviously, one of the things you were mentioning, the company has tried to do things in the last 5 years to become a more attractive employer, to give people the ability to, manage their life, right? That's one thing that people want from our industry. It's basically like a commitment to never having a holiday, or like you were saying before, but trying to do that. A big focus on culture with many people. A lot of people say it, they don't necessarily act on it, but a lot of people are trying to create a better culture around what they do. It sounds like Levy's tried to do that in the last 5 years and basically be there for their employees and all that. From your standpoint, when you're running the stadium up to 1,800 people, you were saying on a game day, how do you manage to instill some kind of a culture? Because you have a smaller team of full-time people, and then 98% of your employees are occasional / part-time. How do you create some kind of a culture in a big environment like that? Are there any tips, or is it basically just having strong values that you try to share with them? How do you approach that?
Yeah, I wish there was a perfect answer, and certainly I don't think that I have the perfect answer. But what I try to do with my team here, and I have a great team that also believes in the same thing. Like we said right at the beginning, people just want to be treated like people, and it's our job as the management team to set them up for success, to make sure that they're trained to the degree in which they need to be trained, that they have the supplies that they need, that they know that we're going to back them up, and this is not this should be an enjoyable experience. This should be something that it's a cool thing to be behind the scenes at the 5th largest stadium in the world with working at a great school with a great franchise, and anything that we can do on the human side, and to understand that we can't run this place without these staff members, whether they're from not-for-profit groups or actual hourly staff. It's our role is to make this the most welcoming and best experience for them. That's with the larger group, and really that's all you have time for. But those little things, the way you speak to people or give direction, or assign them their tasks, or organize them for that shift. Those are the little key indicators that always stick in people's head, that say, these guys have their act together, or this place is a disaster. And we obviously want the former, not the latter, for people to think. So, and then with my own team, I always say, at the end of the day, this is just a job. Yes, we need this job. We're not independently wealthy. We have to make money. And if we're going to do that and work this hard and spend this amount of time together, we should have some fun along the way. And, understanding, everything with safety and all that stuff, but that always has to come first. But, we need to have a relaxed environment. You need to not micromanage people. You have to understand that, these are all director level or senior manager people that are on this team, that they're adults, and most of them have families and mortgages and responsibilities. And so I think they're capable of managing their own time and their own work. You're just, or at least I am, just here for guidance and support and to make sure they're pointed in the right direction. And I think, when people know that they can come to work with their own day organized and not be asked every 5 minutes what they're doing or why they're doing it, but know that there's that support and resources behind them, I think that makes a great culture. And that's what we want to trickle down to the larger group.
Very cool. Principles are principles, right? Whether it's in a large environment like yours or even in a smaller restaurant, it's about treating people like people, like you said, and caring about them. And I love, like you say, you don't want to micromanage them, and you let them manage their schedule and all that. People you don't manage, you can't run the whole show yourself, right? You find the right people, put them in the right position, and trust them that the work's going to get done, and try to empower them to do the right thing and make the right decision. So,
and I think too, you asked before, doing something to scale or in a small restaurant, I don't think the principles change. I think, just maybe the size of your team, and then the size of, if it's just extrapolating it to a bigger number, right? And certainly it helps to go through those big events or festivals or Pan Am Games or Olympics. It helps when you see it with your own eyes, but the principles of running the business don't change. You have to know how, as the leader of either the GM of the restaurant or leading a property like myself, you have to understand, or being the conductor of an orchestra, right? You got to be able to play every instrument. Hopefully you're not the best at every instrument. That means you don't have a strong team, but you know how to do it all. You have to understand logistics and ordering and forecasting, and finance and HR, and you have to understand, you have to be a therapist some days, and you have to be a big brother or sister, or sometimes a mother or a father, because we're so hands-on in dealing with people all the time. It's not robots, it's not software. It's most of our business is dealing with people, and they have things that happen in their life that are good and bad. And that's just part of the business, and it seems like it's just a little more exacerbated when you have a large team. It can sometimes feel like there's always something happening, but that's how people's lives are, right? And that just is with the business, which is why, most days I do love this business, because, I don't know many other occupations where you have to wear that many hats, and probably every single day, all of those hats at least once.
Yeah, and you got to be quick on that. It's funny, we got a question on Facebook from Pascal is asking, what about training all these seasonal staff? Probably not an easy thing, right? Where you were saying you get people from like paid employees, maybe some nonprofit people that come and work with you. How do you handle training with all those people?
Christoforo, that sounds like a good Greek name. So,
yeah.
Yasu Tikanis.
Bravo Kalopedi, eh?
Yeah. So, it goes back to logistics. We obviously have to segment our training. So there's some, the good part about technology in these last few years is that a lot of our technical training, chemical awareness, responsible alcohol service, sexual harassment, business ethics, those are a lot of online classes that we do pay people for. So we say you have this block of time to finish this training, and this will be added to your paycheck. If you finish it in 1 hour, great. If you take all 6 hours, is what it is. As a property, Texas A&M has a training day for all staff, if that's, ourselves or security or event management or building ops. And that's usually, let's call it 3,000, 3,500 people. And that's, usually a 4-hour deal where, no matter what, we all want to try to represent the brand here of Texas A&M. Even though we're contractors, we're all, proud to be working at the school and part of this organization. So that's sort of the raw to get people on that page. And then we do our individual department trainings with either the nonprofits or our hourly staff. And that can take, we start that probably 3 weeks out, usually scheduling in the evenings because most people have second jobs. And we bring them right in to either the area, the bar, the concession stand they're working in. We go through the technical ABCs of the job, point of sale training, end of night procedures. And listen, I wish I had an unlimited budget because I'd probably like to quadruple that training. Reality is it doesn't work that way, but yeah, that's how we do it. Great question.
Very cool. Yes, thanks, Pascalis, for the question, and you for the intro in Greek. I guess I don't know if you started there. I started working with a beautiful Greek family for the first 5 years in the business. You mentioned using tech for online training, which obviously makes a lot of sense. You have tools today that can allow you to, see who's watched what and how much time they spent on it, and throw some quizzes in there. So obviously, great technology there. POS, obviously, for you guys to track sales across such a big operation. How big of our industry is really late to adopting tech, and I'm curious to know, in an environment like that, how much do you guys harness that when it comes to, you're talking about supply chain, bringing in a lot of product, getting that product dispatched in the stadium. Is there a lot of tech behind that, or is it still pretty old school?
No, it's definitely gotten a lot better. I think it's hard to, at the risk of sounding insensitive, saying that there may have been some silver linings during the most devastating time, at least in my lifetime, worldwide. Yeah. But I think we've learned, or at least here we have. When I say here, I mean Texas and the larger United States. There's now when you're trying to make a decision. 2 years ago, it was a lot of deliberation and can we do this or can't we or why not? And it just seems that decision matrix has been accelerated, where it's like, this will make things easier or more streamlined or, be beneficial to the operation in some way. And the answer usually starts with a yes and then work backwards with, how do we get this done? Yeah. Technology is a huge part of that. I think there was already investments, at least with our company, into a new purchasing system, looking at ways of, now that we've gone cashless and a lot of properties are going cashless, that end of night inventory, there's much more openness to how much time do we want to spend counting cups and counting whatever when the opportunity for theft is basically not there, at least to the opportunity cost of doing an inventory in a place this size. Yeah. I think a lot of places are adapting to that as well. And I think, mobile ordering, at least in the places that have reopened in the States, there's been an uptick in the mobile ordering side. Some stadiums have gone to 100% mobile ordering at the direction of the client. So I think, I was saying to somebody the other day, I think, the future, as it was already trending, was that personalized on-demand experience, because we're competing with, the living room and the 85-inch TV and the comfort of your own home and your own clothes in your own bathroom and not having to worry about paying for parking and, not having to pay $10 for a beer. I think that there's always going to be competition from that now, but there is something about the live experience that is never going to go away. So, working with fans and staff and everyone of how do we keep people coming back to these stadiums, and technology and data is such a huge part of that. So it's way less old school than even 5 years ago, and accelerating faster than almost every other industry. And that's not just stadiums. I think that's hotels. I think that's cruise ships. I think that's flying and check-in, and our whole industry, I think, is accelerating now. That's
really cool. I'm curious to know game day. What's Chris's day like on game day? Where you at? I mean, is it just putting out fires? Is it kind of just making sure everybody's in the right place? People are motivated. I'm sure it's like you said before, even on average day, you wear, 7-8 hats, and on any given day you'll wear them all. But what's a game day scenario like for you?
So, this will be my 4th football season coming up here at Texas A&M, and I can tell you almost verbatim how the season goes. is really, really hard no matter what. Doesn't matter how, like, talking with a friend I was in Austin last week, talking to my counterpart at Austin FC, which we're opening this Saturday for the first time. And he was at Wrigley Field for many years. And, same team, high volume account, same, like, not obviously the Cubs, but I mean, his team, basically really low turnover. People wanted to work there, and probably still do. But opening day was always hard. The building's been closed for 6 months. So every opening day is really hard. I usually walk, somewhere between 25 and 35 miles, and right around that on the game day, making tons and tons of notes, trying to get to every area that I can to see it with my own eyes. I have a great team here as well. So, the fires to put out are relatively minimal. It's really hard to get 1,800 people in here on the first day and run the event. From there, the second game, for whatever reason, is usually an 11 a.m. game, which means our chefs are starting at midnight the night before. And most of our check-in starts at 4 a.m. So that really sucks on that second game. But after that, everyone's in a rhythm. And then my game day just becomes visiting different suites, talking to all sorts of people from, the student section to, any part of the concessions, and then the VIP suite holders. And that's kind of how my season ends. And, my mind's always thinking of, by game 2 or 3, I'm already thinking of next year. What are we going to change? What would be cool? What are we going to implement? Dealing a lot with sponsors. So I do get to that sort of higher level, 30,000 feet by game 3 and 4.
So really down on the ground for the first few games, and then you get to that point where you're seeing the business as a whole, and you can start to be more in planning mode and not necessarily any urgent stuff, but how do we grow long term? And that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, first game is literally like reopening a bunch of businesses. Like you said, I can only imagine it's been closed for 6 months at Wrigley Field when you're opening up, 100 businesses in the same day, pretty much. Even though they might be small businesses, it's still, like you said, there's a lot of moving parts in there.
Yeah, and you have to remember too. I mean, these are outdoor venues that are exposed to a lot of different elements. And last year in Texas, we had the big freeze for that 7 to 10 day period. We had water pipes that burst everywhere, significant damage to many areas of the stadium, including our warehouse. But I mean, that was an anomaly. But 6 months of really intense heat, sometimes really deep freezes. Different furry friends that wander around.
Yeah, 'cause they have time to get to where they want to go, right?
Yeah. So, but yeah. So that just, it's different than the Bell Center, which is hard enough to open after an off season. But, in a regular year, the Bell Center is doing concerts and hockey, and, they're probably doing 150, 160 events a year. So at least keeps up some normalcy and some use. Where here, we literally turn everything off. We unplug every fridge, we turn off every light, and then fire it all up again. So.
Probably not easy to manage. Also, you were talking about managing supply before. You need to manage what's going to be left at the end. I'm sure. I mean, obviously, you guys have a lot of other outlets where you can probably send products, and there's other venues that are operating year round or that are still operating for something else during the season. But I can only imagine trying to plan that you don't want to run out, but you don't want to wind up with a full warehouse at the end of the last game, right?
Yeah, that's where some of that, cruise ships, they do an absolutely spectacular job of basically pulling into port and refilling an empty ship, right? I mean, they have their inventory and ordering down to, the gram of strawberries that they'll need, for a certain voyage. And you're right, we try to hit that sweet spot. It all depends on how the team is doing and how the balance of the schedule looks and how the weather looks. We're one severe thunderstorm away from our whole season being a financial ruin, right? Because we do run the other venues, it's true, but 85% of our revenue is driven from 7 football games. So if one of the 7 has a significant issue, let's call it weather, or the team is not doing well, or the schedule is weak for the balance, it can get dicey. So, between sharing with our other venues, our other properties here in Texas, there's just some things that you can't do anything with. 55 concession stands with bag and box soda. It's a huge number. I don't know how many numbers I'm allowed to say on here, but it's a 5-figure number of soda that's left in lines that we just can't do anything with. And it's just because of the size of the place. So all that has to be accounted for and budgeted for and forecasted for. But you're right. We try to hit that sweet spot, and we're trying to make those projections every game leading up to that 7th game. Because once that season ends, there's really nothing to do with it. The other venues are small, so. Yeah,
very interesting. I can imagine it's like anything else. Like you said, you do the best you can and you try to plan it, but at such a large scale, it's crazy when you're imagining that you may waste 5 figures of water and sugar pretty much, but that's sitting in lines there, right? There's not much else you can do there. That's really interesting stuff. Far from anything I've experienced in my life, so I'm kind of I would love to fly down and see a game behind the scenes in an environment like that. It must be crazy.
Well, we could use the labor, so
for sure. But you'll have me working. I won't have time to go around. But maybe I can bring up some bibs up the ramps there if the elevator goes down. You've been in the business for 15, 20 years probably, maybe even more. But what would you say to a young Chris from 15 years ago, seeing what you've learned? You've worked in many different places. Now you've been with the company for what, 6-7 years. How long have you been with Levy?
Well, yeah, this run with Levy is 6 years.
Yeah.
And but I have worked for them for off and on 12 or 13 years.
Yeah.
I started as a bar supervisor. What would I tell young? Well, first thing I would tell young Chris is that there will be a time in 2010 that you're on a cruise ship and you will meet a girl and she will become your girlfriend, and you will have the opportunity to go on a different ship that goes to Australia and the South Pacific in one season and Hawaii in the other season. And there is a chance you're going to decide you don't want to do that because you want to stay with this girl. Don't make that decision. Go to Australia.
Amazing.
But no, I've been really lucky, Chris. A lot of it has been lucky in timing. I've been really lucky with some great bosses in my life, including my current one, and that's not just to win points. But I've had people that have taught me a lot and supported me, and I haven't been afraid when a door has opened. If it was to go on a cruise ship, or even going before that, to go to Costa Rica by myself as an 18-year-old, not speaking Spanish, and staying there for 3/4 of a year, to going to Vancouver and working in the Olympics, and then I was lucky that one of my friends was running that program there, and having the Pan Am Games opportunity fall to another one of my friends who then hired me. And I just think and then being vocal. It's not maybe just myself I would give advice to, it'd be anybody. It's don't be afraid to ask for what you want, and ask for it with logic and passionately, and have something to back it up, right? If that's asking for the salary that you think you deserve, or asking for the job that you think you deserve. I think too many people, especially ones that I interview, when it comes to the salary part, it's like I've never seen people more nervous that when I ask them how much they want to get paid. Well, and maybe this and maybe that. It's like, no, I want to get paid this amount of money, or I'm not going to take this job. I wouldn't say that part, but I think that's just the advice to anybody getting in this business. Don't be afraid of doors that open. Recognize when they do open and ask for what you want.
Very cool. You said that there's some people around you that have believed in you, people that, great people in your life that have elevated you and helped you get to where you're at. Who would be 3 people that had an influence on you other than that girl that messed up that trip to Australia. But yeah, three people. It could be in your career, your life, but three people that had a good influence on you and that have helped you get to where you're at now.
Jeez, only three?
I mean, you can name more, but yeah, if you don't want to hurt people's feelings. But sometimes people have a hard time getting to three because I put them on the spot. But
okay, I mean, so you want me to, like, I can use their names? That's
of course, would love to.
Yes, I think one guy that you should have on, even on your show too, his name's Dan Morrow.
Yeah,
the Senior Vice President of Food and Beverage for Maple Leaf Sports. We met 20-something years ago. I think he was a senior accountant at Rogers Center when Levy was there. That was my first go around with Levy, and I was a bar supervisor, a restaurant supervisor, and just to kind of grow up with somebody through those years that he's also been extremely successful, to have that friendship and to have those offline conversations and to share. I mean, we talk a lot of nonsense, but, we also share a lot of information on everything from staffing and, incentives and, how to deal with bosses and how to deal with senior people like presidents and CEOs and boards of directors. And, just to know that, somebody's looking out for you. And I hope he feels the same way too. But, he's been a great friend in this business. Another friend of mine who was a former client of mine, now one of my great friends, his name is Alex Milovanovic, Serbian dude. Shout out to Alex. But he was the one that hired me at Pan Am Games and really showed me, taught me a lot about bringing a group together and how to treat people and how to understand that, we are one group, but each person sort of needs their own way to be handled or dealt with. And then, his leadership there showed me what a group of people can do together. And, our department was catering, cleaning, and waste. So all of the venues, 36 venues, plus the Athletes Village, we came in well under budget. Our guest comment cards, I think we gave out 15,000 of them. We had like a 96% positivity rating. So the results were there, but the fun and the relationships we had along the way, that was, one of the greatest times of my life. And then, on the personal side, we have to go with family. I think, lost my mother in 2009, but, her and my dad were, supported me with all of my crazy ideas, and my sister as well with whatever I wanted to do. And there was always support. There was never questions of, why do you want to move to the jungle? Or, going back on a career, you're going to be away from your family for 6 months at a time. Or even now, why do you want to move to Texas? Those were never the questions. It was always support that, this is what you want to do and that's what you should do. And, I don't think I've always behaved in a way that deserved all that support, but it worked out fairly well.
That's the amazing thing with family, right? There's this unconditional love and support. Many times, I mean, hopefully not everybody has that in their family, but glad you did. I've had it. Well surrounded with people that support crazy ideas and or what seem like crazy ideas for other people, but that are, seem normal to us and are calling and what we want to do. So, thanks for sharing that, and I'll definitely reach out to Dan and try to get him on the show if you say he should be here.
I'll prompt him for you. Perfect.
I appreciate that. There's a lot of myths in our industry, and probably even more so in something at scale like what you're doing. But is there a common myth about our industry that you'd like to debunk, or you've already done a few today? But are they things, even maybe in the context of what you do, that you said it a little bit before? People think just opening the door and selling hot dogs is there, but is there another myth that you see that you'd like to debunk, or that irritates you?
Yeah, I'll just speak in generalities. There's a huge myth that we as an industry, we're just raking money in, that these $10 beers or whatever it might be is just creating this enormous amount of profit for, either the owner of a small restaurant or the corporation. And, a couple things with that, we're all a business, right? I mean, I never see anybody at the gas station when gas prices go up asking for the manager and saying the gas is too expensive, right? You don't see anyone at Walmart. Like if you look at commodity prices in the last 6 months, tomatoes are up like 200%. Like all these timber is up 6,000%. Like,
Yeah.
right? I mean, but you don't see people at Walmart saying, getting their bill at the checkout and going, this experience wasn't worth it. These tomatoes are too expensive. I would like them for free. And for some reason, and again, this is the negative side. There's, for the amount of people we serve a year as an industry, the majority of people do have a great time and they're just not vocal. But the myth is that this is easy money and we're raking it in. And in reality, especially independent owners risk everything, their own house and their own food and their own family's livelihood, plus being responsible for other people that work there. And, how many times have you seen a glass break in a restaurant, right? Oops, dropped the glass. Well, the bartender is like, oh, well, and they clean it up, but that's $9 out of the owner's pocket, gone. Bottom line, never to be seen again, right? So, I think restaurants, or what are they, 90% fail rate, and of the 10% that succeed, if you're putting 10 points to your bottom line, I mean, you're doing a pretty damn good job. So that's the myth. It's really, it's not easy. It's not exceptionally profitable. And I don't know why people think that.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting business. You've said it before, but it is very, very, I mean, if you're doing 10 points, 10% profit, you're above, I mean, the industry average is 4 to 7%. And I tell people that and they tell me I'm crazy, but I'm like, do the math. And, but the interesting thing there, like, that's the way I like to explain it too, is that $9 glass, if you're doing 10 points and you're doing really well, that means on a $100 table or $100 tab at the stadium or $100, well, you just basically ate the profit from that, right? Mm-hmm. So how much more are you going to have to sell to recoup that too? So you break a glass, you break this, you break a bottle, you don't punch this in, you forget that, you waste that. Then you've wasted $50-$60. Well, that's the profit from, $1,600, right? So,
but I think too, sorry to interrupt. When you said it's exciting, I wanted to jump in there because I don't want to sound like Debbie Downer because, we've done so many weddings in my career and, so many birthdays and so many retirement parties and so many I'm cancer-free brunches. And, to really see that even though you're behind the scenes, well, you're out in front of people, but you're providing the non-tangible experience, right? And so many people's memories in their lives have something to do with the food, the experience, the beverage that we were part of. And that's a really cool feeling. And that's the majority of it, I just want to make sure that I'm not sounding too Debbie Downer here.
Not at all. I mean, it's a hard business and I asked you about a myth. So usually that means a lot of people think maybe not very clearly about something in our industry, but I don't think you'd be where you're at if you weren't positive and being able to bring people and teams together. So thanks for sharing a lot of that stuff. Very interesting topics in there, very interesting points, and fun to see it from your point of view in the kind of environment that you work in. Before we let you go, time flies, obviously, when we do these, but I'd like to do a little rapid fire questions with you. You enjoy a beverage like wine, beer, or spirits? Do you have a drink once in a while?
All of the above.
All of the above. What's your favorite?
Okay, I know this is rapid fire, so let me try to go quickly here. Beer. If I'm drinking beer, I mean I love trying all kinds of beer, but I really love Boddington's and Guinness, those nitrogenated beers.
Yes.
For liquor, like pre-drink at a nice restaurant, Smoky Manhattan. With Make 46, 1 large ice cube, no cherry, lemon, and orange twist. And then wine. I mean, I've just started a pretty decent sized wine collection right now. So, you name it, I'm trying it.
Nice. The best trip you've ever taken?
Okay, best experience in my 5 years on cruise ships was the first time going to India. and the first time being in Mumbai and taking a day we found, some random person on the side of the road to give us a tour. Her and her husband had an air-conditioned car, which was a big deal. It was real feel 52 degrees with the Humidex. I mean, it was the hottest I've ever seen in my life. And my friend and I thought it was going to be this expensive tour, and they ended up charging us $20 a person for like an 8-hour tour. But yeah, to see the real sights of Mumbai and really understand what certain situations that other people live in, but still, Chris, they were just like you and me. They're just people trying to make some money. Very nice, very sweet. And then family trips every year that we go to the cottage. I'm lucky that the football schedule here still allows me to go home in the summer. Just those weeks at the cottage are fantastic. What I look forward to every year.
That's amazing. Your favorite restaurant?
Best restaurant experience that I think you have to do once was the French Laundry. Went there with some friends, my sister and brother-in-law for my 40th birthday. Was just outrageous. My favorite local restaurant is a restaurant called Terra Restaurants. It's just north of Toronto. I'd put it up against any restaurant that I've ever been to in terms of service. And here in College Station, Texas, shout out to the Republic Steakhouse, my go-to spot.
Amazing. What would be 3 words that best describe you?
Are you a fan of The Office?
A little bit. I have some friends that are like way over the top with it.
What was the Dwight line? The Dwight Schrute line where they said, describe yourself in 3 words?
Was that in there?
He said, what did he say? Like alpha male, merciless, jackhammer or something.
I'll take that. You land on the desert island. You can bring one album of music. What would it be?
Counting Crows, August, and everything after.
Amazing. Haven't heard that in a while. That's the one with
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones and all the hits. The yellow cover there, album cover.
Every song is great on that album. And I still listen. I think it came out in 91 or 92, and I still listen to it to this day.
Yeah, very good. I thought it was later than that. I thought it was like 94, 95, but time flies. You said before you enjoy Netflix more than YouTube. What series are you watching right now? Anything we should check out?
Well, I'm watching for, I think, the 4th time now, Peaky Blinders.
Nice.
And if you haven't seen that, you personally, I highly recommend it. You need to get through the first 2 episodes.
I did start the first one, and I saw my lady was watching it the other day. I'm like, man, I'm really hopeful for it. I didn't get through it, but now you're saying that, I'll stick around for a couple episodes.
Yeah, and I mean, all 5 seasons are great. Love that show.
Amazing. If you could have dinner with anyone, living or dead, who would be at your table?
It would be my mom, my dad, my sister, grandparents, all of. It'd be a big family dinner. That's what I would choose.
Family man at the cottage, I'm guessing.
At the
That's
cottage.
what would be happening.
Where's
the cottage? North of Toronto?
Yeah, it's in a little town called Minden Hills, so Minden, Halliburton area.
Okay. Well, you're going to hit it this summer, I'm guessing? You're going to go up there soon?
Well, we need this border to open.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
you're in Texas.
I'm not going to come home to quarantine for 14 days. So
yeah.
Just read an article today that my brother-in-law sent me. Seems like, a late June, July border opening is going to happen. So, I mean, that's what we're it's not in my control. So all I can do is hope and hope to see the family there this summer.
That's amazing. Chris, it's been a really cool conversation. Appreciate you coming on and sharing with us and getting some insights into what you do and who you are. I would definitely love to share a smoky Manhattan, hold the cherry, give me the zests, and a large ice cube with you. I'm sure we'd have a good time chatting even more about our industry and other stuff. And you could teach me about college football. I'm big into the NFL, and I'm starting to watch college football But wishing you, even though we're quite early in June, but an outstanding season in the fall. And thanks for coming on.
That was really fun, Chris. Great idea. Really glad you're doing this to get some exposure to our industry friends, and hopefully people learn something from it. It's great to be with you.
Amazing. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.